Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of several books and, of course, Turn on the Power. No other than Mr. Derek Williams. Welcome back, Mr. Derek, and can you please introduce more about yourself as usual?
Yeah, well, my name's Derek Williams, and I'm a licensed acupuncturist and also a book author. And I've also a certified strength and conditioning specialist. And so I wrote this book, Turn on the Power: How to Use Applied Kinesiology to Improve Athletic Performance. After I had an idea, it was just an idea that popped into my head while I was in acupuncture school. Um, and I'll tell you what happened. I was in acupuncture school. I was already doing acupuncture. I was already doing applied kinesiology. I was in my third year of school, and my third is in final year of acupuncture college. And because it's 4 year program, but it's wrapped up into 3 years. You don't get the summers off. They run it all year long. And so in my third year, um, there was the NFL Combine, and I was watching the NFL Combine on TV. And there was an athlete, and he was having a bad day, and they said this was going to hurt his standing in the draft, in the NFL draft, and that could really hurt his income. That could really hurt his standing as far as a starter and everything. And I was thinking, I just thought to myself, I was watching this draft, and I just kind of thought to myself, if I could do applied kinesiology on this guy, I could totally fix him, and he'd do a lot better in this, in the events in the draft, because they have to run like the 40-yard dash, they have to do a shuttle run, they have to do all these athletic events, right? And this kind of helps, along with their college stats, it helps the coaches in the NFL determine if this person would be a good match for an NFL team. And so I was watching it, and I just said, well, if I did AK on this guy, I could fix him. And I thought, whoa, that's a great idea. So I called my best friend, and he came over, and I said, hey, we need to try something. We need to do an experiment. And he says, okay, I'm game. What's up? So I said, we need to muscle test each other and find some weak muscles. And everybody's got a few that are not working up to par. And when I say weak, I mean, I'm talking about the grade scale of, it's a muscular um, strength grade scale. 5 is full strength. 4 is a little bit less. 3, 2, 1, and 0 are pretty much gross dysfunction. You're going to need an MRI or something, an MRI, CT scan, something to figure out what's wrong, because it's pretty bad. But basically the difference between 5, which is full strength against resistance, and 4, which is pretty good strength, but not against resistance. And so we started muscle testing each other. We ran through what we call the basic 14 muscle test in my book. And there's a lot more than that in there. There's about 46 or 48 muscle tests in my book, I think. And so we ran through the basic 14. It runs through the basic 14 organs of the body. And we found, it just so happened that I had weaknesses in the same place he had weaknesses. We both had weak hamstrings. We both had weak glutes. And we both had, I believe, weak quads. And I said, okay, so it's all leg stuff today. I said, so what we need to do, we need to go outside, and we're not going to rub the trigger points and correct these yet. We're going to go outside, and we're going to run the 40-yard dash, 3 attempts. We're going to run the standing broad jump, 3 attempts. And we're going to do the vertical leap, 3 attempts. And we're going to record our distances and our times. And then we're going to come back in, and we're going to rub the trigger points, correct these weak muscles, muscle test them again to make sure we've corrected them. And then we're going to go back out and rerun these events. So we did. And I was astounded. I mean, I knew there was going to be an improvement, but this was great improvement. So my standing broad jump improved by a whole 12 inches. So if you remember doing standing broad jump in high school, if your high school had you do it, I know mine did. Every 6-week grading period, we had to do like certain events, 40-yard dash, standing broad jump, all this stuff. And standing broad jump, my standing broad jump improved by a whole 12 inches just by rubbing some trigger points, like in the book. That's crazy. Then my vertical leap improved by 3.5 inches. and my 40-yard dash came down by 0.35 seconds, a little more than a third of a second, and this is instant. This is instant improvement, and so we were just blown away. And so I thought, well, I've got something here I need to write a book about. And my friend, he patted me on the back and he said, "Congratulations, you just became a millionaire." And that hasn't happened yet, but it would be nice if it had. But I tell you what, it sure makes for a great book, and it sure makes for some excellent, excellent improvement in athletic potential for people. Everybody I've helped has just seen tremendous improvement.
Excellent, excellent indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Mr. Derek, can you explain the core principles of applied kinesiology as introduced in the book for improving athletic performance?
Sure, sure. So what happens? You've got muscles that are related to acupuncture meridians, that are related to organs, that are also related to levels in the spine where the nerves come out that feed these either organs or muscles, right? And so what happens is something is off when a muscle's not testing strong, when it's testing weak. It's it's dysfunction. It's what's called the difference is called facilitated, which means strong, or inhibited, which means weak. And there's something wrong if a muscle is inhibited. And it could be that there's a subluxation in the spine. The spine's out of alignment. That would generally be something that a chiropractor would fix. And that it could be pressing on a nerve, and it could be causing an imbalance in a muscle. Or it could be that an acupuncture meridian is somehow imbalanced. That could come from not getting any sleep. That could come from an emotional upset. That could come from eating bad food, eating the wrong foods, or any number of things. That could come from an injury, an old injury, or a new injury, or whatever. It could come. I know that I'll tell you this. Um, if you eat greasy foods, it imbalances your gallbladder really badly. If you eat sweets, it imbalances your spleen and pancreas. If you eat hot peppers, it imbalances your um, large intestine, small intestine, and sometimes the stomach. But yet, definitely the large intestine and small intestine will be imbalanced every time you eat hot peppers or a hot pepper sauce. So, there's all kinds of things, mainly dietary indiscretions, that people do that cause themselves to be imbalanced. I'll tell you something else too, and this is something. If you hold a cell phone up to your head and talk on a cell phone, that imbalances your brain, and that can throw off coordination. And I'll tell you, if you watch NFL football, or in your case in Canada, CFL football, you can see if a player is tackled, or like a quarterback is sacked. If a quarterback's sacked and you see on the film that his head kind of does this number to snaps back and snaps forward, and he gets that like whiplash motion, he will throw interceptions later. It's a guarantee. He's going to throw incompletions and or interceptions after he has that whiplash motion to his neck, and it's because it threw off his brain. You know, and that's I mean it's every single time. I can see it and I can tell it when I see it. And all they would have to do is take this guy to the sidelines, take him in the tent, muscle test him, figure out that there's what is going wrong, adjust the neck probably in football. Take his helmet off, give him a chiropractic adjustment, muscle test him again, make sure it's testing right. If not, rub the neurolymphatic points while he holds the neurovascular points, and it would fix it, and he'd be back to normal. So if the people that know this, the people that use this are getting great benefit out of it.
And how does the book make applied kinesiology accessible to both healthcare professionals and layperson coaches or athletes?
I break it down into simple terms. I don't use all medical terminology. There is some medical terminology in this book, but I also break it down into regular, everyday terminology that coaches and athletes and even parents of like high school athletes can understand. You know, I tried to write it at such a level where anybody, even like high school students, if high school athletes, if they happen to be working on themselves or working on each other, they would be able to understand it and do it.
Hmm, indeed. And how do the detailed health and performance indications for each muscle test, as described in the book, benefit athletes?
Well, it improves the muscle to the point where it's working at full capacity. So, say for instance, if you were capable of, let's say, bench pressing 300 pounds, but you've got some kind of dietary indiscretion. Okay, so let's talk about the muscles involved in the bench press. Just for instance, everybody knows what the bench press is. Okay, so you've got the pectoralis major clavicular branch, which is up here. You got the pectoralis major sternal branch, which goes over to the center of the chest. Okay, pec major clavicular is related to the stomach energetically. Pec major sternal is related to the liver energetically. Okay, you've got the deltoids, the anterior deltoid, which is related both to the gallbladder and to the lung. You've got the uh, lateral deltoid, which is related to the lung. Okay, you've got the triceps, which is related to the spleen. Okay, and so those, and your grip, of course, is related to the spleen meridian, which is pancreas. Okay, so any kind of dietary indiscretion, or even any kind of, like, if somebody has a stomach virus, they're going to feel terrible. They're not going to even be able to compete. But any kind of dietary indiscretion, or even just walking by, I mean, this is mind blowing here. If somebody's at an athletic event and they walk by somebody, say outside, right outside the event, that's smoking a cigarette, and they happen to inhale a little bit of that cigarette smoke, it'll throw off their lungs, and it'll throw off the strength and the muscles related to the lungs. Okay. If you need speed and if you need like coordination and fine motor skills, a cell phone up against the head is going to throw off your fine motor skills and throw off your brain. It's called brain meridian integration. And any of this stuff can be off. It can be off because of an injury. It could be off because of an emotional upset. I'll give you an example. The liver is related energetically to the emotion of anger. The kidney is related energetically to the emotion of fear. Okay, there's an emotion associated with all these organs. But say for instance, if somebody gets angry, okay, and now their liver's messed up. Okay, so now their pectoralis major sternal, the branch of the pectoral muscle that comes over and attaches to the sternum in the center of the chest, is going to be imbalanced. And this could just be due to the emotion of anger. So there's a lot of things that can cause these imbalances. And if you have an imbalance like this, you're going to have to, you can either figure it out and fix it, or like if you're at a competition, you're not going to perform at your best. And you see that, you see athletes, they perform at their best, and they're on top of the world, and they do absolutely phenomenal things. And then you see them another time and they don't perform so well at all, you know? So we're talking about like a quarterback. Let's say a quarterback in the NFL or in the CFL, and suddenly they start throwing interceptions. That's going to be probably because they took a hit, whiplashed their head, their neck, and now their coordination is off. It could also happen to a wide receiver, a running back. You see him throw a perfect pass to a wide receiver, hit him right on the numbers. He bobbles it and drops it. He shouldn't drop that pass. But if his fine motor skills are off, if his brain is off, then that's going to cause it. You know. So I mean, what we're doing here is basically finding these things. You can find them before an athletic event. You can find them the day before. It's better to find them right before. Like if you happen to be at the venue where the person is competing, you could find them right before and correct them. And I think what's going to need to happen is all the teams, all sports teams are going to need a book like this. They're going to need this book to teach them how to do this if they want to be at that next level all the time. Because otherwise, you're just going to have these mistakes. You're going to have people, taking whiplash injuries that, well, not necessarily a complete whiplash, even just something with that like whiplash motion with a little bit where it kind of pops your neck a little bit. Okay, that's going to throw off your brain. Okay, you've got somebody else that just happens to be addicted to Chick-fil-A or Burger King or something. These college kids, they eat like garbage. I mean, they're young, they've got fast metabolisms, they got great bodies. They're not worried about getting fat. They're not going to get fat. They can eat whatever they want at that age and at that activity level. And so a lot of them don't really worry about what they're eating. Well, the problem with that is you see a lot of torn ACLs, and you see more and more torn ACLs these days. Okay, one of the problems with the ACL, okay, it's related energetically. The back of the knee has a muscle called the popliteus. The popliteus muscle holds the entire knee in place. Okay, that muscle is related energetically to the gallbladder. The way that you imbalance your gallbladder is by eating these seed oils. These seed oils, these processed fats, and everything that are in the that are in all the fast food. So if somebody goes out and eats Burger King or say Chick-fil-A fried food, whatever, and then goes to an athletic event, and that popliteus muscle is imbalanced, it's not going to hold the knee in place as well as it could if it was working at 100% capacity. And what happens is if they make a wrong turn, if they plant their foot, pivot wrong, whatever, they could tear an ACL, an MCL, an LCL, or tear some structure in the knee because it's not being supported by the muscle in the back of the knee that holds it in place. You know, and I've seen that. I mean, I had a softball pitcher one time that she went and she's going through her wind up and her shoulder hurt every time. She could not do the wind up. Every time she planted her foot or tried to plant her foot, her knee would hurt, and she couldn't even go through the pitching motion. And she was a pitcher. So I start doing the muscle test. I find these weaknesses. The first thing I ask her, "What about your diet? How's your diet?" And she says, "Well, I love to eat like Chick-fil-A. I eat Chick-fil-A all the time when I go out." And I said, "Okay, well, I mean, it tastes good, but it's got a lot of grease in it. It's got a lot of oil, a lot of seed oils in it. It's bad for your gallbladder." So I muscle tested her gallbladder. It's weak. Okay, I happen to have a bottle of dandelion extract. I rub the trigger points, give her some dandelion extract. This thing straightens right out, and her muscles are strong. She gets right back out on the field. They had the radar on her. She's pitching 5 miles an hour faster, and her knee doesn't hurt anymore, and neither does her shoulder.
How does Turn on the Power address advanced topics like food allergies or nutritional deficiency to optimize athlete outcomes?
Well, I do have a chapter in there where you can muscle test and find nutritional deficiencies and overages, and that covers vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. Actually some essential fatty acids are in there too. So you can muscle test and figure these things out and find out, if you're low in something or if you have an overage in something. So I do address that in this book, and there are muscle tests for all these things. And these are kind of extra muscle tests that you would go through. This is not the kind of thing you'd do at the site of an athletic event. This is the kind of thing you would do in your off time, like at an appointment with an acupuncturist or chiropractor that's using this book.
And Mr. Derek, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and of course, my book 101 review in fifth season too, and my comedy 101 in second season. And my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101 Love Letters in fourth season, as well as Movie 101 review and Music 101 and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. And Mr. Derek, what is the one takeaway you hope readers gain to turn on the power to elevate their athletic performance through applied kinesiology?
Well, they need to see what the book's all about. They need to go to my website, derek-williams-author.com, and check out the page about the Turn on the Power book. Look that up, check it out. Look it up on Amazon, check it out. I've got some sample pages here that show you what is going on, what's inside the book, so you can see some of the science that I'm talking about here. And I do believe that anybody that is competing in sports, anybody that's a coach, anybody that's a doctor or a chiropractor or an acupuncturist that treats athletes, they need this book, and these athletes need this book because I tell you what, this can be the difference between getting a college scholarship and not getting a college scholarship. This could be the difference between making it to the NFL, between making it to the Major League Baseball, between making it to the UFC and not. Seriously, it's that big a deal. And the performance improvements that I see when I work on these athletes, it is that big a deal. It's crazy what I have seen. I fixed a guy one time and is doing his squats, and he improved by 50 pounds immediately. And I'll tell you a quick story about me. And This was years ago, that before I ever knew anything about applied kinesiology. This is about chiropractic, and this is one way that you can fix some weak muscles. And I have scoliosis. Okay, I have a crooked spine, and I was told this. I was diagnosed with it in elementary school, and they didn't really do anything about it. I didn't need a rod in my back or anything. It wasn't like that severe. And my doctor asked me, "Do you have any pain?" I was like, "Nah, my back doesn't really hurt or anything." He said, "Well, if it doesn't hurt, don't worry about it." So what happened was, years and years later, I'm doing powerlifting, and when I come up with the bench press, my left arm would lock out before my right arm. Right arm would lock out last. For left arm work locked out first, right arm locked out last, and you can't do that in powerlifting. You have to lock them both out at the same time, or you get red lighted. Your lift gets disqualified. So I'm thinking, this is when I was younger. I wasn't a practitioner yet. I didn't know anything about this. I was thinking, well, there's a problem with this. Why is this happening to me? And I thought, well, okay, for some reason, my left triceps stronger than my right tricep. So I would do a few extra reps with my right tricep on certain exercises. It never did help. Well, then I also noticed that when I would squat, I would come up, when I was coming up in the squat, my knees would want to kind of come together. And that's not good. And my training partner would always say, "Hey, why do your knees do that?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know." Well, anyway, I hurt my back. And after I hurt my back, I went to a chiropractor, and I got my spine really fixed up in good shape. And when I got my spine fixed, you know what? My triceps locked out at the same time. I never had that lockout problem again. I could lock out both arms at the same time. Um, as far as my bench press strength went up by about 50 pounds in the few weeks following these corrections that I got. Also with my legs, my leg press went up 200 pounds and my squat went up by 75 pounds. And this would be some of the same corrections that you would see from using my book. The only difference is that the chiropractor back then that treated me, he was adjusting my spine and my problem was scoliosis. And with this book, sometimes you've got to rub the neurolymphatic points while you're holding neurovascular points to fix things going on with the organs, with the nerves, with the muscles, whatever, But that's the kind of gains I've seen.
Mr. Derek Williams, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books, your advocacy, or any projects that you're doing right now?
Sure, yeah. Like I said, with my website, it's www.derek-williams-author.com. You can go there and check out my Turn on the Power book. I've got a book called Successful Treatment of Environmental Illness with Applied Kinesiology. I've also got 3 fiction books that I've published there as well. And one is in the horror genre. One is in the action adventure, the police procedural genre, and there's another one in there that's actually it's action adventure as well.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Derek Williams because if you support him, for sure, more and more and more empowering books to come, more and more advocacy to come. So, Mr. Derek, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
More to come, people. See you soon.
Have a great